So there are significant updates in Donald Trump's Jeffrey Epstein scandal this morning. Despite Trump's best efforts to distract from that with his Space Force getting moved announcement yesterday, there is a bipartisan effort in Congress to get all of the Epstein files released, and we are watching the Trump regime actively bully Republicans to stop them from voting to support the release of those documents. Isn't that a little sus? If Donald Trump doesn't have anything to hide, why would he work so hard to keep Republicans from releasing that information? Earlier on Blue Sky, Ron Filipowski said he's using the influence and power to block the release of the Epstein files. That is why only 4 Republicans will sign the discharge petition. They'd have had 50 signatures if Trump wasn't threatening them. And also today, Epstein survivors are having a rally in Washington, D.C., where several of them spoke, not only urging Congress to release the information, but also saying they themselves will compile a list made of survivors and for survivors that at this point in time they plan on keeping confidential, of the clients, perpetrators, and other folks in Jeffrey Epstein's circle. And then we also today kind of saw reporters grill Trump about that in his gaudy, gilded Oval Office. Let's tackle them one at a time. So first, here's what Trump said when he was asked about the bipartisan effort of Rep. Ro Khanna and Rep. Massey to get all of the files released, to force the DOJ to release all of the information.
All run by Democrats, or for the most part run by Democrats. So what they're trying to do with the Epstein hoax is get people to talk about that instead of speaking about the tremendous success like ending 7 wars. I ended 7 wars. Nobody's going to talk about because they're going to talk about the Epstein whatever.
Right. So the reason that this is a predominantly Democratic-led effort, it is bipartisan. Even Trump had to correct himself. But the reason there are not more Republicans signed on is because we're getting reporting that Trump and his minions are intimidating Republican members. I saw one report this morning where members of the Trump regime said that Republicans who would vote for this, to have the Epstein files released, would be committing a hostile act against the Trump administration. Yeah, Trump's real scared that this information is going to come out. There's no reason for him to try and suppress it that hard, to go full attack dog like that. If it's just a hoax, it's no big deal. He's not in any way implicated in those documents. Why not just release them? Why go balls to the wall to try to stop Republicans from releasing that information? Why basically threaten them in public? If you do your job, I'll consider it a hostile act against me. If there's nothing damaging in those documents for you, Donnie, then why would it be a hostile act for Republicans to release the information? And also, as Epstein victims are speaking, we see Donald Trump once again using this term hoax. I have a whole video on this a while back, but when Trump uses the term hoax, it's a tell, right? He's tipping his hand every time he uses the phrase hoax or witch hunt. He said it about federal prosecutions against him, for which, he was convicted. He said it about the E. Jean Carroll case, for which he was found liable in a court of law. He said it about Russian collusion into our elections, which happened repeatedly. When he uses the word hoax, it's a tell. Speaking of which, in the Oval Office today, when he was asked about what the victims are saying.
Right now, there have been survivors of Jeffrey Epstein speaking at a press conference on Capitol Hill. They're calling for these case files, these documents to be released. And Thomas Massey, who is sponsoring a discharge petition to get the House to vote on release of these documents, says he doesn't believe you're implicated in these files, but many of your friends and donors may be, and he says that's why the Justice Department is redacting them and slow-walking the release. Is the Justice Department protecting any friends or donors, sir?
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends. It reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given. But it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president. Even if you look at D.C. right now, D.C., it's a totally safe zone. It's called a safe zone. That's a term. It's a term of art. It's a safe zone because it's very safe. You can walk down.
Again, when asked about what the victims are saying, when asked about what representatives in Congress are doing, Trump continues to push this narrative that it's a hoax. It's a hoax, but Ghislaine Maxwell went to prison. Jeffrey Epstein went to prison and ended up, the DOJ itself admitted in court documents that there are more than 1,000 victims of Epstein and his clients. The real-life victims are speaking out publicly, and Trump continues to call it a hoax. So let's hear what some of the victims said yesterday in a news interview, and then let's hear what some of them said today in that rally in D.C.
Are you all satisfied generally with the level of communication that you've had or that your representatives have had from members of Congress? Do you feel like your voices have been heard from members of Congress?
No.
Who here is satisfied with the level of contact they've had from Congress? Nobody. Did any of you hear from the Justice Department before they released that memo, that 2-page memo earlier this summer? No hands. Were any of you told that Todd Blanche would be speaking with Ghislaine Maxwell prior to that interview over the course of 2 days? No. Were any of you told about the prison transfer that Ghislaine Maxwell?
No.
Do any of you feel that the DOJ has communicated with you enough this year?
No.
Any of you had any communication with the DOJ?
No.
Gosh, MAGA, didn't you all vote for Donald Trump because he said he would release the Epstein files and get justice for the victims? Yet the Department of Justice is not communicating with the victims. They moved Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security prison without consulting her victims in a political maneuver that Trump thought was going to be advantageous for him, but not for justice. MAGA, you all wanted the release of the Epstein files because you wanted justice for the victims. Does this look like justice? Let's hear what they had to say today.
And also, I would like to announce here today, us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know who are regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors.
And speak up so that we can be more of a stronger voice and louder.
And so what is your message to President Trump on this, Maria?
I don't want to send a direct message to him. I'm already scared enough. Yeah, just pass the vote, listen to us. This is not a hoax. Like, it's not going to go away. And like I said on my speech earlier, we're not going to be silenced anymore.